Shut up and sit down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show. Tonight, we are talking to someone who is hard to introduce because she's done too many things. She is a journalist. She is a YouTuber. She is a podcaster. She's a former Miss India. Preity Upala, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Namaste, David, and namaste to your wonderful audience. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, you've done so many things. So like an interview could go all sorts of different ways.
Yes.
But I want to start out with the former Miss India part, because I mean, that's really cool. And to transfer from that into all of the other things that you've done, I'm curious how you handled, that, being famous for your beauty and then being able to be famous for your mind afterwards.
Well, I think I was famous for my mind and for my soul and heart before I ever got into the beauty industry. I was at university, and somebody approached me and they said, look, you're such a great ambassador and a role model for young girls. You're smart and you do charity work and you're just a nice person. Why don't you, go on one of these beauty pageants? And you never know, we need people like you. And this was a lady who was running one of these pageants. So just for the hell of it, I said, let me do it, because I thought, okay, you never know. I could talk about like greater causes or something important for the environment or just the planet. So I didn't think anything of beauty pageants ever before that point, and I competed. I did very well, and then I competed in more, and then I ended up winning several. So, but I'm very detached, because I think for some of these girls, even competing in a pageant like this is maybe the most impressive thing that they're ever going to do in their life. For me, when I look at things that I've done, it's probably at the very bottom. I never mentioned it in Australia or anywhere else, but when I moved to Los Angeles, I realized that here you actually get a lot of gravitas, because I think Americans are very obsessed with beauty pageants. So I realized that it's kind of a very good, breaking the ice kind of things, open some doors, whatnot, and then I can obviously blow them away with my intellect and my philosophies and other great things. So you use it, to sort of get a little bit of exposure and maybe a platform. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't particularly think it helped me much in my career or life purpose, because I think what I do on those terms is so far away, and it's serious and very global, and it doesn't help as such. But I think people like to definitely have me involved in a lot of foundations and so on, because they think I'm a great ambassador. So I think from that perspective, it's like a nice package that they get.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a great bonus for somebody with already all of your skills. And I definitely agree. We put a lot of emphasis on like physical attraction here in this country. So, if and we do it in a way that's really like systematic and almost objective. So, if somebody put their stamp on you that says, okay, you're attractive, that makes you attractive. It doesn't even matter like what people actually think at this point. It's just, oh, you won a thing, so you must be pretty. I must be attracted to you. And
and also they think, oh, you're a model. You might not be that smart, or you might not be that deep or intellectual. Now, that's not a stereotype that's entirely wrong, I must say. But not everyone who's a model or is involved in fashion and beauty is hollow. You have to take people on face value. I think for somebody like me, I've had uh, the opposite reaction where people don't realize how educated and intellectual I am, because when they read about me, they think, oh, she's a international beauty person and blah blah
Mhm.
blah. She must be a certain way. And it's only when they really take the time to get to know me, then they realize my background, my education, who I am, what I'm doing, and
Mhm.
then they realize that this whole beauty thing is just a very very small tiny part of my whole identity on the side, and it's
Mhm.
definitely not the main. It's not the main entree.
Right. Uh, I yeah, it's still I find it really really interesting all of these stereotypes that exist. Um, I have, thanks to living in New York City, I have a vast majority of the friends that I've made uh, in the couple of years where I like lived and worked here in Manhattan. A lot of them are in the fashion industry. I have a lot of
Oh,
close friends that are either models or dancers or own a fashion company or something in that. And yeah, I mean, the idea that because you went into a specific career means that you must think a specific way, like we wouldn't put that on any other career choice. You don't
yes,
say all nurses are blank, but because it's something that I think it's honestly jealousy. It's the fact that it's not a thing that you can really improve upon. It's not
yes,
like I can do a bunch of things with my life better and then be a
yes.
supermodel in the
But you
next
can't
5
look
years.
different. Yeah,
Right. Right. I could become a nurse. I'm not going to become a supermodel
that's
anytime soon.
right. And I think also with, especially with celebrities and sporting stars, I think the public feels like they know them, because they see them on TV a lot, and they feel like they know them, and they feel like they can have opinions about them and comment on them in a way that they wouldn't do to other professionals. And also, I think some people think, well, you're rich and famous, and the public made you rich and famous, so it's an obligation for you. And in a way, they're not wrong, because you can't have your cake and eat it too. I mean, you
Right.
can't say I'm just going to take the fame part of it and don't bother me. You have to handle it all, and very few celebrities are graceful and mature enough to handle it, so they get themselves into a lot of hot water as well, because they also can't deal with this. So it's a bit tit for tat. I think the masses and some of these celebrities, the way that they think is actually on the same wavelength, which is
Mhm.
why there's so much engagement. But then somebody like myself, this is all very illusory to me, and I see life for what it is. I'm not impressed. I'm not attached. Um, so it's
Yeah.
I'm very real in that way, and yet I'm in this crazy world, and I keep getting a lot of international exposure. But I think I have my feet firmly on the ground, and I do speak my mind, and I
Mhm.
am very I have strong opinions on things, and I do talk about them, and if somebody has gotten something wrong or they're misrepresenting what I say, I always correct them, because I
Mhm.
think there's too many, especially women, they're too agreeable. They don't correct guys. This is what I've noticed. For me, I've done hundreds of interviews
Mhm.
around the world, and I really want to, stay in integrity, I think, with myself.
Yeah. I honestly think that's a problem across both genders. I have that problem myself. I'm too agreeable. I'll let people just kind of like be themselves and just like I won't stop a conversation to correct
Mm.
somebody most of the time because I'm just like it's not worth it, you know. It's just, and it's a problem. Like it's something that I'm working on. I'm getting a lot better at like picking my battles correctly and making sure that people
True.
aren't like you said misrepresenting. If somebody's misrepresenting me, then that I will always step in and make sure that that's not happening. But other things I'm still kind of you can just say your thing. I'm not that way.
Well,
uh
as a host, I think you do have an obligation to let people speak. Also, if the guest is very insidious, remember, just give them a rope to hang themselves with. I think a smart host will just let these people go on, and they
mhm,
will just embarrass themselves. That's also a sign of a good host. You don't always
mhm,
have to come and intervene, but I think
yeah.
being a guest is Yeah, you have to make it, because I've had a lot of experience being interviewed by various people from various political backgrounds, and I
Hmm.
noticed that some are more problematic than others. And anytime I get invited for a show, and I know their political bent. I mean, I've even declined a few because I know that they will not be fair,
Hmm.
and their knowledge of what we are discussing is not very deep, so they won't be able to really grasp what I'm saying. And
Hmm.
I think their counter to me will not be really logical and based on facts. It's based more on sentiments and
Hmm.
emotions, you know. So and I've had some luckily hundreds of uh, interviews I've done. I've only ever lost my cool once, and I think I've only had one or two bad experiences, thankfully.
I'm curious, what made you lose your cool?
Oh wow,
It only
this is a
happened
very,
once.
very interesting experience that I had actually recently. It wasn't that long ago. And it luckily it was audio only, and it was
Mm.
actually an anonymous show where both the guests, the host, and the audience are completely anonymous. I mean, my name was mentioned, but they don't know what I look like. They don't know my last name, and it was funny because it was a an episode on cultural misappropriation. So it was a very specific episode, and they had me and they had two Persian guys from the UK, and they spoke first, and then I spoke, and we both, all three of us, spoke on um, maybe what the world gets wrong about our cultures. They spoke about, you know, Persian culture, growing up in Iran, and so on.
Mhm.
And I spoke about India, and I think for them it was more maybe fascinating things about Iran and life in Iran. But in my case, it was very intentional, very clear in what I wanted to share. I wanted to talk about misappropriations and distortions
Mhm.
about both India as well as my faith, which is Hinduism, because it seems to be the most distorted faith on the planet. People feel like
Pretty accurate.
they can just say whatever they want because there's never any pushback. Unlike Abrahamic religions, where
Hmm.
you could you say the wrong thing and it's game over for you.
Yeah.
Whereas with the dharmic faiths, the 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 good thing is that people are not violent, they're very accepting and tolerant. You can criticize them, they won't say anything. But the bad side is a lot of people say a lot of things that are not true and they get away with it because there's no pushback. So I was
Hmm.
talking a little bit about history, civilizational history, thousands of years ago, what was going on with the culture, blah blah blah. Great. I had a wonderful segment. And then they opened it up to audience questions. And I think there was a guy there who was intentionally insidious. And I don't think he was being very fair. And I don't think he came to learn. He started asking me questions that had nothing to do with the topic at hand. It was actually on politics, and it was something completely different. And I
Hmm.
shouldn't have engaged him because he was the host was reading me out the questions, and I was answering back. I should have just said, this is irrelevant to the topic, I'm going to pass. But I think it happened so kind of randomly. I didn't expect
Hmm.
it. And I engaged with this guy for about half an hour or more, going back and forth, and he just wasn't getting my point, and he was completely distorting what I was saying, and he was sort of being very, very, very unfair, I think. And at the end of the episode, I actually said, I think it's ironic that an episode on cultural distortions, and yet we are talking about this. This is exactly the point I'm making, that there are so many distortions about my country and my faith, that you go to speak about something nice, you want to educate people, and this is what I have to deal with.
Yeah.
It was very fitting. But it wasn't a very good look, I think, for anyone, the engagement. And
Hmm.
luckily I never signed an NDA, and they had an NDA, and I said, I'm not going to sign it until you cut out that whole 45 minutes of the exchange. just have where I spoke about the culture, and that's it. And they agreed, and that's what they put up. Thank God. And they were very fair with that, so that's good.
That's good. Yeah, I think there's a clear correlation, like you just pointed out, with the misunderstandings and the fact that the basis of most dharmic faiths are to be chill and not push back on things, and it's definitely kind of lends to a problem that is almost impossible to avoid, because there's going to be a whole bunch of people that want to say bad things about everyone or anyone.
Yeah.
And when your life mission is to just take it and move on and just live life, it's definitely a hard issue to correct. It kind of takes a couple of people that don't really live out the faith well,
Yeah.
and who just want to be assholes correcting people.
True.
That's kind of what I've tried to be, because I'm not doing very good at actually living out that lifestyle. So maybe I can be that kind of middle ground asshole that's not afraid to correct people, because I love I've spent almost the entire last 2 years studying Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism,
Yes.
and I love it so
Yes.
much. So much. I was raised a Christian, and what I'm realizing is that Taoism is closer to what Jesus believed than Christianity. So this just didn't make sense anymore to keep basing everything off of the one dude whose writings are clearly distorted and passed down through history, when I could just live life.
Yes. Live like Jesus did, and there's so many stories of him being influenced by other Eastern cultures. I mean, some people say he had traveled to India and he had learned the Yoga Sutras, Vedic culture, all of that. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Some archaeologists claim that they have found maybe not a tomb, but specific things to do with Jesus the man that say that he had traveled, whether it was the Himalayas or somewhere in India, because many people had at that point, and India was this hub, spiritual hub of the world, which it still is actually. But even thousands of years ago, it was like the place for knowledge. And whether it's Buddhism, Jainism, or Hinduism, they all came from India, and they actually are branches of under the umbrella of Sanatan Dharma, right? The bigger the umbrella of Hinduism. Anyway, so in India, I think the difference between Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains is very, very faint. Especially Jains and Hindus is. I didn't realize that a very, very good friend of mine was a Jain. I have known her for a long time, and she has a Hindu name. She always wears a bindi. We have gone to temples together, and she always, says that she's a Hindu. But it's only recently she says, my family is actually Jain. And I thought, I didn't know that. I just assumed because everything you do, and she's a vegetarian, and she was kind of very devout, actually, even with her Hindu beliefs. And I thought, well, this is so syncretic and interchangeable. I think Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism in India, which is the birthplace of all of these religions, it's very interchangeable in a way that when it translates here to the West, I don't see like you find such a huge difference between the belief systems, the behavior, the attitudes of, a Buddhist in India and some vegan, yoga loving white person here in Los Angeles, and they call themselves a Buddhist. And honestly, they don't know the first thing about Buddhist teachings and the history and so on. And also, what I've noticed here in America, especially the West, is they try to make a bigger separation, I think, between the various dharmic faiths than there actually is, and they bifurcate it. Like even with yoga, they don't realize that yoga is a part of Hinduism, the religion, the faith, whatever you want to call it, and it's Hinduism in motion or Hinduism in practice. But here in the West, they seem to not treat it as a facet of Hinduism. They just treat it like it's some kind of exercise sequence or some kind of spiritual thing you do. but and they very few people also teach the philosophies that go along with the poses. So it's and this all of this needs to be
Hmm.
corrected, and I think it's so rich when and I've had some discussions with some some Western yoga so-called gurus, and they are to have these conversations with them, they don't even get it. And some of them can be quite defiant and quite defensive, not
Right.
very gracious at all. They're trying to lecture me and an actual Indian about my own culture. So a
Hmm.
lot of this happens, I've noticed in the West, and sadly, it doesn't come from the evangelists. It actually comes from these people, these this new age types
Hmm.
who for some reason they think that now they own yoga, or they know yoga better than Indians do. It's
Hmm.
very dangerous, and
Yeah.
I don't like the commercial aspect of it, and the
Yeah.
again the
It's.
distortion, kind of making it what you want it to be, giving it, different names. Now you
Mhm.
have Christian yoga, and you have all these ridiculous things, which I find it's blasphemous, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the only good thing is that COVID kind of got rid of all of that, because all the studios got shut, and only the sincere people are now practicing, and all these fake foo-foo people, they're done with yoga. So I'm actually very pleased. I think COVID was what maybe India should have done. COVID has done that for yoga, so I'm very glad.
Yeah, I think there's two very important parts of American culture that play into this, and one's a little bit more generation heavy towards like my generation, the generation after me. They are using these kinds of belief systems as a justification for living a poor lifestyle. The mental health obsession of if it's not making you happy and making you feel good, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yes,
I think they saw a lot of their bullshit mixed in to Hinduism and Buddhism, because there
yes,
is a lot of crossover there. Like
yes,
if you take Buddhism the wrong way, you
yes.
become like a white trash slob that lives with his mom. So like
Or
it's
someone
really
on
easy to go that
acid.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a big problem first and foremost, but also America in general has bastardized every
Yes,
thought thing that we have. I mean, Western Christianity is god awful. Um,
yes,
just awful. We've butchered capitalism. We've butchered American, like we've butchered the idea of a representative republic. We've butchered democracy. We've butchered everything. So I think, and part of that butchering is dividing and pitting people against each other.
yep,
And I think what you're talking about with the extra division between
yes,
these dharmic faiths, it's just so much of the same of that. We have to be part of not only a group of people, but a subgroup of people, so that we can really clearly identify who we are and what we believe. And it's not necessary, and it's the opposite of what those faiths represent.
act- all the dharmic faiths actually don't, they're not about identity politics, and they're not about intersectionality. They're the opposite. They are the republic, if you want to call it, but they are the oneness, the unity.
Mhm.
All world is one family. It's actually the completely opposite philosophy that they are teaching. And I think the way that identity politics is going down in the West, but to be honest, anywhere now, you find it in every country now. It's very dangerous, and it's getting it's very loaded now. It's becoming loaded and more dangerous. And I don't know 10 years from now what is going to be the normal. I I'm a
I don't
little
want to know.
fearful actually with the future.
I don't blame you there. I mean, just to look at how much the world has changed in my lifetime. I mean, like
In the
just
last few years, even, like,
yeah.
honestly, since 2016 maybe, uh globally, what the hell has happened? And now there is this fight between globalism and nationalism.
Hmm.
And it's not even a fight between the left and the right anymore. It's much greater than that, and it's happening around the world. And the problem is academia, media, big tech, even Hollywood. They're all jumping on the political bandwagon, and they have taken sides. They're very clear about that. And
Hmm.
now you have big tech pretty much dictating what your moral compass should be, and they
Hmm.
are the great moral censors of our time. And it's very dangerous because they don't have the right to do that. They're just a free um, speech platform, and they should
Hmm.
act like one. If they want to be editorial, they will have to follow the same rules that any newspaper does, which they have special rules and stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
this is the scariest thing, I think, this big tech censorship and censorship en masse, actually, that we're seeing of people that when the powers that be don't agree with you or don't like what you have to say or think, you're canceled.
Hmm.
This is very dangerous. And the sad thing, what I see in this country is the people that should be defending free speech, they are not. Because right now, the people being canceled are people they don't like.
Hmm.
What they don't understand is tomorrow they will be the ones canceled by actually the same machinery,
Oh
because
yeah.
this is dog eat dog world, especially with the far left, and these people eat themselves. Their downfall is always themselves. It's never, I always say mob violence is really a faction of this far left agenda, not really the right. The right has different ways of dealing with dissent and sedition and all of that. But
Hmm.
with the left, it's mob violence, it's groupthink, it's let's burn down the cities, and it's anarchy. And
Yeah.
people are not willing to be honest about that. And it's very, very dangerous.
Yeah, it definitely. I don't think either side has necessarily a healthy way
Yes,
of handling conflict, but the way that the left does it currently is definitely worse. The Just cancel culture in general is never a good idea. Um, the thought process that I don't like what you're saying, so you have to stop saying it is ludicrous. The
yes.
correct response is I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to stop listening. That's how adults behave.
Or
But
have
this
a dialogue. Let's explore
right.
my ideas and your ideas, and perhaps I can learn something, and perhaps there's a middle ground. And when
Right.
you put these people in a room, you put whether you're left or right, if you're a proud American, you put them in a room, at the end of the day they will realize that they both love America and there's so much to fight for.
Hmm.
People, genuine people, so there's much more that they have in common than not. But
Yeah.
nobody's having those dialogues, and also media is doing a great job at making it even more communal and divisive, and they
Hmm.
actually keep separating people. I was very skeptical about this election, and I always said that this administration needs to be the uniter in chief and the healer in chief. They have to bring the country together because it's a very, very divided, broken country. But a lot of things that they are doing, I'm not talking about maybe the president, but many people in that administration, in that party, are doing things that are actually being more divisive. They're more communal. They're pushing people apart even more. And their job was to bring people together, and they have not done that.
Yeah. I think that it we're seeing a divide in America in almost every single way that
Yes,
we could divide people. You can go onto YouTube and find millions of videos to back up man's hatred for women or women's hatred for
yes,
men, Republicans' hatred for Democrats or vice versa, black people's hatred for white people and vice
yes.
versa, Christians' hatred for Muslims and vice versa, New Yorkers versus New Jersey people and vice
Interesting. That's
versa.
a good one.
Like, you can find shit to hate any other group
This
of
is so
people, and if you
true.
really
If
want
you
to
want
put
to
it
hate, you can find it.
Yeah, and the media is not helpful. Social media is extremely not helpful, and we're especially in this age of like the decentralized media and
Yes,
YouTube and social media being popular. These people are getting famous and rich
yes.
off of just being divisive pieces of shit. Like that's all they do. They just go on YouTube and complain about another group of people, and that's all they do, and they're getting rich and famous off of it.
Yeah, I mean, there are some good independent, um, I don't want to call them journalists, but speakers or people who have shows and so
Oh
on.
yeah. I mean, I
Good
like
for
to think
them.
I'm good, but
No, no, you're great. They're genuine people who are
Mhm.
trying to discuss the truth and it matters, important
Yeah.
matters of our of time. And then there's a whole bunch of other people. It's just rhetoric. It's not even their own reporting. It's not even their own views. They're not love and light. They're extremely divisive, and even on you see this on the left and the right. Some shows, they are very fair, and some shows, very popular ones, even, are not. They're very insidious. They're very disingenuous, but they have big bases because the
Mhm.
base is ready anyway. The base was looking for a show that sort of spouts what they believe in, and these
Yep.
people have come along, and they're saying all the things that this group wants to hear, and they're charged, and
Mm.
you see it on the left and the right,
Yeah.
and it's so dangerous, I think.
That's why I think my favorite news show, and I think you can call them mainstream media, but
Mhm.
they're in a gray area. Is Rising on the Hill with
Oh, I love
Crystal
them. I
Ball
love
and Sager.
Sagar. It's great.
It's so
It's
great.
one of
So
the only news shows I watch. Only, yeah.
mhm. I love that one because, like you're saying, people like to go and find people that will say what you want to hear.
Yes.
I don't agree with either one of them most of the time. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I agree
Because
with
they're
both
left
of
and
them.
right. They're
Yeah,
not they're
I'm
not
in
centrist
between
or in
them.
the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in between them. So every conversation that happens, I'm like, all right, I understand you where you're coming from, Crystal, and then I'll say, yeah, no, I get that too, but I'm also disagreeing with both of them,
Yeah.
on things, and I feel like I'm getting the best reporting because
Yes.
if I don't agree with everything I hear, that makes me more confident in what I'm listening to because it means that I'm not just putting myself in an echo chamber. So I'm just hearing what I like and ignoring what else is going on in the world. So I love their show. It's I think honestly some of the best journalism that's going on right now.
I agree. And they were fair to everyone, and they were not sucking up to anyone or making excuses. They call out BS on both sides
Hmm.
regularly. And I don't think either of them defend their party. They're much more kind of matter of fact kind of way. Now, I've always said that America needs more than just two parties. I mean, they have a few more. I guess they've officially three or four parties, I guess, but you need more than that. You have a population of what, 350 million, and
Yeah.
everyone is so different. Look at India. We have like literally hundreds of parties.
Hmm.
And and you will find a party that is just right for all of your beliefs. There's a lot of overlap, and we obviously in India we have coalitions. We
Mm.
have I don't know, three, four main coalitions, and a lot of parties will fall under either coalition. I think that's better because you could vote for a regional party, but the coalition that they're under is one of the main ones, and it's only one of the two main coalitions that will ever win anyway.
Hmm.
But your representatives are people that you genuinely like, and they speak to you. They are your constituent, and it's very regional in that way.
Yeah.
That's great. But in America, I think you need more than two parties. I also
We're working
each
on it.
party, each of the two main, left and right, they will be a split. There needs to be a split because you have
Mm.
fringe elements in both, and you have sort of a centrist element in both, and you have also an establishment element in both. These are the many different groups coming together, and I think there's going to be a split uh, come next election.
I
Uh,
fucking hope so.
yeah.
I hope so.
Yes.
God, I wanted it in 2020. I actually talked to some Democratic Socialists of America organizers about splitting finally in 2020.
Yeah.
If they had gone, because they could have done it, like let's be real, they had the funding and the people to do what I'm about to say. If
Yeah.
they had gone and gotten Bernie Sanders on the ballot in all 50 states under the Democratic Socialists of America Party, which they could have done, very like doable. For most people, that's not doable. For Bernie, it would have been. He would have gotten more than 5% of the vote. I'm not saying he would have won, but he would have gotten more than 5% of the vote, and they would have had national ballot access to run whoever they wanted against the Democrats in a general election until 2024, when they have to re-up for that ballot access. Like, they could have just changed the entire what American politics looks like right now with Bernie Sanders in 2020. I think was their best shot, and they didn't take it. And I think it's because Bernie is a pussy, not because the DSA is.
I actually agree with you. As a geopolitical expert and somebody who works with foreign policy and international relations, I think for me, when I look at the left, especially the progressives, I think their weakest link is actually foreign policy and geopolitics. They don't have a very good understanding of that for some reason, and it's dangerous because they seem to have a lot of views on these things that they know nothing about. And because they're loud and obnoxious, they seem to be dominating social media with their misinformed views. And you have good people on the left who listen to these people and get sucked in. And then, they're going around believing in some of these distortions. It is very dangerous. I think they don't have a very good idea of who are the real allies and adversaries for America. I think national security is not something that they know much about or, quite frankly, care about. You need to have strong borders for a security point of view. Not even we're not going into the human element. There is good immigration, there is not so good immigration. There is such a thing as terrorism. There is such a thing as religious terrorism, and trying to normalize terrorism, and now trying to compare what happened with the Capitol riots with what happened on 9/11. Ridiculous, offensive things like that. It's so dangerous. I mean, if that's your true beliefs, I feel sorry for you. I think you don't know how the world works, and I don't want you anywhere near any power because of some of the things that you're going to push based on these very completely kind of distorted view of reality. And if you speak to policy experts or think tanks, they'd be shocked. Like, this is not anything that is of any, I mean, doesn't have any substance, but because they're not called out on it, they're able to run amok. That's why we're seeing all this. There's so much BS out there. Anytime military is discussed, defense, this, that, the other.
It's so politicized, and people think that first of all, people think that they have to have an opinion on everything about it, and you don't, first and foremost. But on top of that, they think that opinion has to. They think that being consistent means having the same opinion on everything, and it's not quite. That's not quite what it is. There is such thing as justified military presence sometimes. I don't think that really anything we're doing right now is justified, but there is a time where maybe it might be, World War II, especially post Pearl Harbor, like, yeah, I probably would have voted to go to World War II also if I was in Congress. For sure.
Can you imagine if that didn't happen? And ironically, the Russians got the Germans, right? It wasn't even the US, or it wasn't even. I mean, I know the English people love to claim that they saved the world. It actually wasn't them. You got to thank Russia for that. It was the commies. You'd be surprised, and also um, you're allowed to disagree with to agree with some party policies, and allowed to have independent opinions about others. You don't need to toe the same line, and just because you're from the left, it doesn't mean that your view on these 10 things are the party's official stand on it. Because I mean, come on, we're all human beings. We're educated. We can read, write. We can look
Mhm.
up news. We can do research. Thanks to the internet, the truth is out there. The facts are there. You are allowed to have, and you must be able to express them. And it doesn't make you a bad person if you have certainly slightly different views. And going back to like things like military. Uh,
Mhm.
what the US's military role is. They are they have the most powerful military in the world for a reason, and not just to protect themselves, but also they can do so much good in the world. I mean, there is a lot of kind of evil out there. They are rogue actors. They are rogue nations. You can do something about it, but they never do that.
Mhm.
They get very hawkish on things that don't even need to be meddled with. But the stuff that actually needs to be curbed, they don't do anything, right? And
Mhm.
because they're invested, they have their own investments in, they're entrenched in the system in some way. And I think a little bit also is, again, just their understanding of global politics, even on the very very high levels, is a little, they still don't realize that they are in bed with some enemies right now. People that they're funding and supporting are actually the ones that are doing damage to themselves or to
Yeah,
them,
I
and they
think
don't
one.
get it.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger distortions of the left on war policy in general is that Bernie Sanders is anti-war. Like he
Ah,
voted
okay,
for
interesting.
every war and every like military budget for years and years and years. Voted against war once for the Iraqi war, and then has continued to vote to refund it and to keep it funded and to send more people out there, and then somehow ran on being anti-war. Uh, I think that definitely contributes because a lot of these leftists hear his rhetoric and agree with it and are
Yeah,
anti-war for good reason because we shouldn't be bombing brown people every day. Like we shouldn't be
so
doing that.
silly. You could like a news flash. The 9/11 suicide terrorists, the last I checked, were not a part of the SS. They didn't come from Germany. So, you terrorists are of a certain type. They could be white. I mean, you should look at ISIS training. They train everyone. They train
Mhm.
Muslims. I mean, from the UK.
Oh
They
yeah.
train Sudanese, Somalians, Afghanis. Chechens, people who look very Russian,
Hmm.
people from Kazakhstan, whatnot, and they're all trained with a view to hurt humanity and society, and they're not good people. And you have to this is an area, I think, where the US and US military and foreign policy should be using their might more, because they actually can wipe it out and eradicate it, but they're doing the exact opposite. They're paying and supporting the people that are actually harboring it, while they should be cutting off and sanctioning such countries. They know where Osama bin Laden was hiding, and why are they still engaging, and they continue to give billions? It's moronic. I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, we just sent him a whole bunch more money in the last COVID relief
Yes,
bill.
for
We sent
gender studies, of course.
gender studies for no less. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I definitely, one of the problems that I see is that people are becoming anti-war
Yeah.
because of Bernie Sanders. They're hearing his rhetoric and they're agreeing with it, which I do as well. Uh, and then but then they think that he is some kind of anti-war expert, All right, guys. So there was some technical difficulties while we were recording. Her internet was going out, and we tried to record through it a little bit, but the quality was really bad, and then we ended up fixing it. So the rest of the interview is back to good video quality, but I want to fill you in on the little bit that we were able to discuss in that kind of shaky point. We were basically just comparing Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard's foreign policy, and that Bernie Sanders has basically been a war hawk most of the time he's been in office, and has voted for defense budgets and military budgets throughout, whereas Tulsi has been very principled and very nuanced. And, uh, Preeti mentioned in this part of the conversation that Tulsi isn't a complete non-interventionalist. She's not an isolationist. She's not an extremist in any way. She actually has a nuanced view of just about everything, and knows that there's a middle ground to be made here. Maybe we do have an ability to go help people or protect people, and especially protect ourselves. So we're not just trying to scrap the entire military, but also we shouldn't be spending trillions of dollars bombing hospitals and innocent people in the Middle East. So there's a conversation to be had here, and Preeti and I were basically just having that conversation and discussing how Tulsi's basically the only person in Washington, at least on the left and really on the right. There's not many other people in Washington that are willing to have this conversation. It's either support our troops or end the wars and all wars, and there's not really much of a conversation here. So that was kind of what you missed in that couple of minutes. I hope you enjoy the rest. All right. Yeah, I would love to see her. So Tulsi Gabbard has the best foreign policy by far.
Yes.
And I agree that she has no home in the Democratic Party anymore. But I would love to see her move a little bit towards liberty and join the Libertarian Party. That would be, I think, where she would fit in the best, where she would be the most welcomed. And I would absolutely love to see her move in that direction. She might just go independent. I'm not sure. We'll see, right?
Yeah, we've never had an independent president before, or anyone really in the highest kind of positions of power. So it's tricky because you need a whole, I mean, there's funding, you need a whole machinery behind you. And as an independent, you don't have that. We'll see. It's very sad. It's very unfortunate that somebody with her quality and caliber was not used in the right way for her party. And she's finding herself moving away from a party that she's been involved in probably for 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
It's their loss, but
Yeah.
let's see what happens.
Yeah, 100% agreement there. It is definitely their loss. They could have had a badass,
Yes.
independent, strong woman of color, veteran. Like, she checks every fucking box in the
She
identity
does. She's
politics
one of the few
bingo.
people that checks, especially women of color and religious minority. She's a minority in every way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they picked the wrong minority.
Yeah.
And now I was shocked. I mean,
I mean,
wow,
is Kamala Harris in a
kind of-
religious minority too? Is evil, like, vitriolic, terrible human a minority? I hope. That seems to be her religion, is just like evilness.
You know what? I
Harris.
honestly hope that this president lasts his term. I really hope that that's the case.
God.
We can end the chapter, and 2024 it'll be someone new. I know this much. I think the problem is going to happen if you're going to have a switchover. And the later that happens, the better. The earlier that happens, the scarier for this country. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I do not want to see a President Kamala Harris ever. There's been, so I don't normally give much weight to the celebrity politician thing, but there has been a little rumor going around the last couple of weeks of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson running for president
I
in
think it's just a
2024.
rumor. He's
I
too smart.
agree.
He's too
I
smart to get
agree that
involved in politics.
I
I
don't know.
love
I
him
mean,
though.
Trump
Yeah,
did
there you
it.
go.
Trump did it, and it made him richer than he's
No,
ever
but
been.
remember, Trump had other things going for him. He wasn't an actor, he had a an empire. Whatever you think of him, he had been doing it for decades. He had
Mhm.
employed people, all of that stuff. A family man, and I mean, yeah, there's a lot that people don't want to admit that he, legitimately did. He had a show,
Yeah.
and he has had independent political views since his own childhood. You can see in many of his
Mhm.
interviews, he's always been a very political person. He probably used to watch these presidents and say, I can do that. And in a way he could, and he did, I guess, you know, um,
Yeah.
and you needed, I mean, it's politics is very dirty in this country. You need, it's a dog eat dog world. You need a real tough cookie. And I think The
I
Rock
think
is
The
just,
Rock is a tough cookie. You don't.
no,
You don't think?
he's tough physically, but I mean, I don't see him as a dirty politician. And look, as popular as he is, I think you need somebody who's good with policy, and that's
Mhm.
a whole world in itself. And unfortunately, we'll see who comes up, because I don't think there's going to be a repeat of this in 2024. It'll be a new. I'm predicting I don't think the Democrats will win again. And I think there'll be different
I
candidates
hope
that are going
not.
to be put up. And even if Biden ran again, he will not win. So
I
even the
will put.
DNC will have a new face. And that
Mhm.
new face, I don't know who it will be. And I don't know how popular they will be 4 years from now, because that's a lot of time when all the bad policies will be criticized, and I see that already happening. And
Yeah.
I also predict that in 2022, I predict that I'm thinking both will flip, but at least one will flip, the Senate or the House. So that
Mhm.
changes, it brings back balance, I think, which is missing right now.
Yeah. I mean, it almost always flips the midterm
Yes,
after a
every two
change of
years,
seat.
yes.
Like almost
And
almost
remember,
every.
Obama, he lost them both, which shows
Yep.
how unpopular his governance was. Even there were
Mhm.
many people in his own party that turned on him.
Yep. And then Trump lost the House, and then I think Biden is going to also lose the House. Yeah, I think. Well, actually, I don't know. I agree with you that one definitely, both probably. Um,
Probably Senate, because Senate
Senate's
is
only one.
usually very, you have a lot of lawmakers in the Senate. The House has firstly, it's only 2 terms, and it's just, there's all kinds of people run for House, but Senate, you have some serious heavy hitters. You got some good
Mhm.
people that you have to rally against, and
Let's get Mitch
so you got to
McConnell out.
really,
Specifically, Mitch McConnell needs to get replaced in 2022. Or actually, no,
yeah, I
he's not
mean,
up. Never mind.
I think he disappointed his party. I think a lot of people were not expecting some of the things that he ended up saying and doing in the last few
Yeah.
months. That's kind of a shocker. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think I'm wrong. He's not up for reelection until 26. Because
Oh, wow.
he just got reelected. Actually, in the middle of all
Wow.
of this, he got reelected in a landslide. It was pathetic. I'm very disappointed in Kentucky. I
In the
don't.
people of Kentucky, man, guys, you had a
How do you guys?
chance. You could have.
What I don't understand is how they elect Thomas Massey to the House, who's one of the best congressmen that Washington has ever seen. They elect Rand Paul to the Senate every 6 years, who's not the best, but he's pretty damn fucking good. And then they
I like Rand
also
Paul a lot. Yeah.
consistently reelect Mitch McConnell. I will never understand that. I will
Yeah. How
never
can you elect?
understand that.
I mean, how can you have Tulsi Gabbard and then you have someone insidious like some people in the squad, you're like, how did these people get elected? You kidding me? These are the
Mhm.
most anti-national people I've come across.
Yeah. But I will never understand somebody that could, because a whole bunch of people this year checked the
They're
ballot
from the
for
same
both
state, right?
Massey
Rand
and
Paul and
McConnell.
yeah.
Like, it's crazy. It's the same people that are voting for both of these. I won't understand it. I'll never understand it. I need to go to Kentucky and figure this shit out.
I mean, do you see a Rand Paul and Tulsi Gabbard ticket?
No.
No. Because
Unfortunately,
why?
no.
They'd have to find a new.
Yeah, sorry, I'm dying over here. Yeah, I don't see Rand Paul being the guy. I think he shot himself in the foot too much with the brown nosing Trump. And regardless of whether or not he was doing it for good reasons, I could definitely hear out an argument. And if he actually somehow won the Republican nomination in 2024, I would consider voting for him. But I don't think other people would. I don't think the general population. They're either going to go with the Trump-backed candidate, because Trump's obviously going to endorse someone, or they're going to go with the anti-Trump candidate, and Rand Paul is just kind of a lukewarm in the middle and not going to go anywhere. Yeah,
that's right.
I think
do you see? This is probably not going to ever happen, but do you ever see? And would you like to see Nikki Haley and Tulsi Gabbard?
I am not a big fan.
That's a nice ticket. A good-looking ticket.
It's a very good-looking ticket.
Very good-looking. We need it. We need a sexy ticket, I think.
My preferable sexy ticket is Justin Amash and Tulsi Gabbard.
I like that. Sure.
That is like, I'm actually a part of a group of people who are working to make that a thing.
Make that happen. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to get her to come in the center. She has to come hither, because he's not going to go there, I think. So yeah.
He definitely. I want to see him move just a little bit. But here's the thing. What I don't necessarily need either of them to change anything that they believe. I just need them to not pretend that certain beliefs that they hold are part of the party platform. The Libertarian Party has a platform. Justin Amash aligns with it about 85 to 90%. Tulsi Gabbard about 75%. They can. I would like. I mean, Tulsi would have to completely drop like any form of like gun control policy that she has, but other than that, I don't see any deal breakers in her beliefs, and I don't think she really believes that gun control bullshit either.
I'm with you. So what is the Libertarian Party's official take on gun control? They are for it or not? They're not for it.
No.
Great.
Second Amendment. The government has no right to make any laws.
Yeah, it's about individual rights and all of that. That's a great,
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, and in most people's interpretation of the Second Amendment, every law that exists within the federal government to restrict the purchasing of any weapon, whether that's a gun or a bazooka or a fucking tank, is a violation. It says we have.
Okay, I get you. Because they're being, it's purest view of the law.
A little bit, yeah.
It's not about you can have a handgun but not a rifle. You're allowed because it's a protection thing. It's a weapon. Blah blah blah. That's true.
Because the biggest misnomer, in my opinion, of the Second Amendment in general is that it is for personal protection. It's not. That's not the purpose of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment was written to overthrow a tyrannical government if that happened. Yes. It's a fail-safe. The Second Amendment is a fail-safe for a very terrible government. We're getting there. We already have a pretty terrible government.
I think it's getting there. I think anarchy is like on the brink here. We might actually need these. You might need one to save your ass in the next few years. The way things are going with the mob violence, and how else are store owners going to protect themselves? From the mobs and things like that.
Yeah. From the mobs, from the cops, from the military. I mean, we had military marching through the streets of most cities at some point in time this year. Like, that's not a thing that happens in a free country.
No, but by the way, I'm for them if they are there to counter mobs burning down cities. That's why they should be there. So bring in the feds, whatever, do what you need to do to restore law and order. But I'm not so sure that that's what they were doing, and I'm not so sure that they succeeded in anything, you know.
No, they didn't restore law and order. I mean, the thing, like anybody that knows what we do overseas, the military does something called a show of force, which is where they don't do anything. They just drive through a town with as many fucking cars as they can, with as many people as they can, and show like, we're here, motherfuckers. Like, don't mess with us. We're right over there. We're right over there, and we
So
can
they
come
can
drive
do that
through.
over here too.
Yeah, that's what they were doing here. They were doing exactly what they do in Afghanistan to our own citizens this year. It was just driving down Broadway in the middle of Manhattan, not during a protest, not during a riot, just to show we're here. Like, that was I.
And where were they on the 6th? They weren't there. They were
nowhere
around.
to be found.
It's so funny. So what do you think 2024, which party, do you think it's the GOP will win? You think it's going to be a Republican?
I think it all depends on who they pick.
Yes.
I will put money on Harris Buttigieg being the Democratic ticket.
Wow.
I will put money on that right now. I think that's where they're going. The Republicans, I have no idea where they're going to go. Like Nikki Haley's, maybe.
She's good. She's a name, popular.
Name.
But
Yeah.
what she did recently, I think it's going to come back to bite her. For so long, she supported the president, and then
Yeah,
just before he was acquitted too, she didn't even wait until he was acquitted. Had she waited a day, she wouldn't have said anything. You know.
Yeah, she would have been a shoo-in for 24 had she not said that. I think she's going to be in a similar situation as Rand Paul. She kissed up to him too much, but not enough, and so no one's really going to support her. I'm personally like I get a lot of hate for this opinion, and it's a cult of personality, just appreciation for this guy, and I agree he's probably a terrible fucking human, but I think that the Republicans' best shot would be Matt Gaetz.
You know, a lot of people like him, though. A lot of conservatives like him.
I mean, the thing about him is, you know, first of all, we're talking about an attractive ticket. Like he's
a young kind of,
face,
you know, I think maybe doesn't have
style. Yeah, he's young. He's decent looking. He's got like an interesting life. He's got a good fashion sense and a charismatic personality. And he's actually pretty knowledgeable on the issues. I come to different conclusions than he does, but he's not a moron. He's just takes the wrong course of action.
He's a patriot. I think you need someone who is more. Actually, Nikki Haley would be. She's very good with foreign policy too. So you need, actually Rand Paul is also very good.
Would be dope.
So you need someone who is a little bit on the policy front, because it's going to come down to that. Because I think what's going to happen in these 4 years, there will be a lot of bills passed, and there will be a lot of policy sort of changes, which will be very unattractive. And you will need people to really sort of reverse that. And you will have to, this country will be forced to, I think, you know, re-identify itself in many ways with its allies and its place in the world. And the geopolitical sphere in the world is changing. It's not 2016, it's not 2020. In 2024, you will have 2 emerging superpowers, and UK, Europe would have really dwindled in their power. And then you have the US that is not going to be the superpower of the world again. You have other players, you know, out there, and I think the dynamic between India, China, and the US is going to, and I'm going to remove Russia for a minute, because I think once Putin goes, it's just going to be a slightly different kind of dynamic and
Mhm.
their place in the world.
Yeah.
So you have India, China, and the US, and their dynamic becomes incredibly important. And unless this administration doesn't have a very, very strong relationship with India against China, then it'll be very ambiguous and very dangerous, I think, for the world. So I want to see this administration get very clear on its allies and back up its allies and call out rogue actors when they need to and take action, take whatever action they need to, because they haven't done it so far. And I
Yeah.
want to see them get a little tougher on some of these geopolitical matters and not succumb to identity politics and to the progressives in their own party that are completely delusional about all of these things. And in fact, they are pushing for sort of action against the wrong countries, and they're completely ignoring the real perpetrators. This is a typical. I see this a lot with progressives. So I just think that 4 years from now, geopolitically we'll be in a different place, and whoever comes in needs to be very hip and savvy with that, and not everybody on the left or on the right is. Some
Mhm.
people have done it for decades, they're very good.
Yeah.
um so I think Nikki Haley still has a good shot.
Mhm.
She has 4 years to sort of make up,
Figure herself out. Yeah.
retrace her steps. Maybe if she can do that, and she's a smart woman, I think she has supported and not supported people based on when it was helpful for her in her career. So, um, you know, we'll see.
Not a
She does. She
great quality, but it's definitely she's smart. I'll give her that.
No, it's
uh,
good.
yeah.
But then I mean, Kamala Harris is also very smart, very educated, intelligent, articulate, capable woman for sure. But I think it's the other stuff,
She's also kind of
and
the devil, though. So.
I mean, that X factor, the charisma, the compassion, those things are not
Mhm.
there. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we'll see. I am, I keep I'm keeping a close eye on this administration, especially with the foreign policy stuff. I was more scared than how things have turned out. I think there was more fear. I was more skeptical. They are sort of getting the memo that they can't sort of succumb to the fringe voices in the party, and I think they are just being a little smarter about a few things. And I expected them to sort of take to maybe make some wrong choices, but what they're saying and what they're doing is not as bad as I thought it was, because I think they're waking up to the realities of what's
Yeah.
out there, and whether they like it or not, they have to listen to some of the other powers that be. And military also has their point of view on this.
Yeah.
And the military has whether it's China or Afghanistan, they have their point of view, which is obviously carries a lot of weight.
Mhm.
And foreign policy does not change overnight.
Right.
And a lot of this stuff won't change. Like, and your relationship with your allies shouldn't be changing overnight. That's very dangerous, and I don't see that
Right.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely. I think the thought process amongst the people in America is definitely moving in the right direction, and hopefully
Yes.
we'll see that in Washington in the next couple of years. But before we go, I want to give you a chance to uh, tell people like how they can follow you, help out with anything that you're working on. Plug yourself a little bit.
Oh, thank you so much. What a great conversation. And we I think we went into all kinds of interesting directions. Great
Yeah.
conversation. Really enjoyed it. I hope your audience loves it too. So I am very active on social media. Please find me on Twitter. I am at the Preity Effect. On YouTube, I have my own show called The Preity Experience. Please come and check it out. There's a lot of great content. On Instagram, I am again The Preity Effect. I'm very active on Instagram as well. And LinkedIn, it's just Preity Upala. Facebook, it's just Preity Upala. I have a fan page, but a personal page too. I am kind of very active in media. I do a lot of media interviews globally. So you can search for these. I write a lot on various matters: politics, religion, spirituality, philosophy, feminism, power. So if you just Google my name and article or media, I think my work will come out. My websites and all of that are being designed as we speak. They're going to be live soon. And my own podcast is again called the Preity Experience. And I think my site is live now, so you can find that as well. But please reach out to me, and let me know your views, what you think about what we discussed, and if you have any questions, especially if you have any questions about India or Indian politics, or the Eastern spirituality and philosophy, because I'm a certified Dharma ambassador. I write and speak on these issues. So let me know. I'd love to engage with you guys, and I really want to really get more familiar with the libertarian people, because I've only
Oh,
ever dealt with
we'll bring you
left or
right in.
right, and I know that there is so much in between, and I'm finding that
Mhm.
I have much more in common with libertarians than some of the other two,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I'm excited to get to know them more.
Well, we are excited to get to know you and to bring you in. I think you're going on my friend Stacy's show sometime in the next
Yes,
couple
very
of days too.
soon. We've been waiting because I was in Vegas for last week. I couldn't do it, but I think maybe that's my next interview. I'm so excited.
Yeah, she's awesome. So definitely there she won't let you not get plugged in and sucked into the Libertarian Party and the circle, especially
Nice.
on Twitter. She won't leave you alone. Cuz she's fantastic. So yeah, I'm excited too. I'm glad to have you joining the circle, cuz I personally believe that most people are libertarians and they
Yes,
just don't really know it. Um, and I think most people genuinely want to live out this kind of live and let live, peaceful lifestyle. And I think, for me, libertarian philosophy is deeper than the politics of it, and it's basically its own religion, and it's an Eastern based religion in the same way, because it is the same, it's the same exact principles of just
yes.
live and let live, and respect people, and personal responsibility on top of that. The thing that makes it actually work is like taking care of you and your own and the people around you, and all that combined, I think it's just the best way to live.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to being on your show again. And thank you to your audience also for listening, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Namaste. Thank you so
Namaste.
much.
Thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. We will catch you back here next time.
Hey fighters, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. If you want to learn more or get involved, go to fightforliberty.com/join or reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at Fight for Liberty. If you want to help keep the show going, Patreon and Cash App are the way to do that. We'll catch you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.